How dare lowlife prosecutor, deranged Jack Smith, that's right, he's deranged, break into my former Twitter account without informing me and indeed trying to completely hide this atrocity from me. What could he possibly find out that is not already known? Just like the early morning raid of Mar-a-Lago. Why isn't the DOJ raiding crooked Joe Biden's house? Why aren't they raiding his phones? He's the most corrupt and incompetent president in the history of the United States.
He's taunting him, gang. The Trumpinator is taunting Jack Smith and bumbling Biden because he knows, first and foremost, Jack Smith has no case. And now it appears official. Wait until you see the latest on the DC case against Trump. You'll see precisely why Trump is already taking some much-deserved victory laps, and not just when it comes to Jack Smith's implosion, but also Biden's collapse as well. They're calling Biden's polling disaster a 5-alarm fire. This is the legacy lamestream media saying this. DC is in panic mode today, gang. I'm going to show you exactly why. Greetings, everyone. It is live stream Friday. Happy February, Groundhog's Day. One of my favorite movies to boot. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you to think better so you can feel better in these crazy and turbulent times. So if you haven't already done so, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We are live on both YouTube and Rumble. Unfortunately, as many of you already know, our super chats, by which you would normally send me your questions, have been disabled. And that's because big tech has totally demonetized us. And yet you, my dear friends, you, upon hearing of that demonetization a few weeks back, you stepped into the gap and came to our rescue. Literally thousands of you. Gang, last count now, we're approaching nearly 6,000 of you have come to our aid and support, and in turn have stuck it to big tech overlords by making the courageous decision to join our Insiders Club, where we have direct access to one another that can never, ever, ever be interrupted by big tech censors. And so today, you can still ask me your questions. I'll answer each and every one of them during our live stream. But instead of putting them in a super chats, just click on the link below, sign up for Insiders Club. They'll first ask you for your email. That's important so we can always stay in contact with each other, regardless of what big tech decides to do to us. So make sure you put in your insiders or put your email information there, and then you have a chance to join our Insiders Club. And what you could do is you could just ask me any question you want from the Insiders Club platform. I'll answer them here today on air. And just to show you my appreciation, we're offering a little gift here. Many of you are kind enough to normally give us like $10, $20, $50 in the super chats whenever you ask your question. Can't thank you enough for that generosity. Today, as just a token of our appreciation, gang, you can join our Insiders Club for $5. That's it. $5 a month, a fraction of the cost most of you put in to the super chat. So you can ask me any question you want for just $5 for the rest of the month, right? You ask me as many questions you want for the rest of the month. It's just my way of showing my appreciation for all of you, especially that nearly 6,000 of you who've already joined. Go ahead, click on the link below, join our club. Wait till you see how exciting it is to be interacting with nearly 6,000 of your fellow patriots all over the world. I mean, remember, the MAGA movement is a nationalist populist revolt that's happening all over the world. So you get to hang out and chat and network with your fellow patriots all across the planet. It's absolutely wonderful. And gang, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot thank you enough for how you guys rose up and rescued us from this. You're my heroes, and you're the reason why I do this, and you're the reason why I have so much optimism for the future. So God bless, gang. All right, let's dive right in here. It is now being widely reported that the trial for President Trump in D.C., the trial that was supposed to convict Trump first and foremost of trying to overturn an election by virtue of his involvement with January 6th, that trial has now been completely dropped from the D.C. court's public calendar of scheduled trials. So if you go to the D.C. federal court's calendar for scheduled trials, on into throughout the year, Jack Smith's case against President Trump, his sham case against President Trump, not only has been removed from the originally scheduled March 4th trial date, it's been removed from the calendar entirely. There is no Trump trial scheduled at all in D.C. It's gone. It's been wiped clean from the D.C. court schedule. It's literally as if it never existed. In other words, technically speaking, the D.C. case against Trump has been postponed indefinitely. Now, there's a very interesting behind-the-scenes development in all of this. Florida Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who's wonderful, she just tweeted out that she and her Republican colleagues of several days back sent a letter to Jack Smith, this rogue prosecutor, weaponizing the law in order to blatantly interfere in the 2024 election. And they demanded that he produce information for precisely how he has conducted the sham indictment legally, legitimately, such as how on earth does he have jurisdiction to assemble a grand jury in Florida, right? In the case of Trump's handling of classified documents, that he was just gloating about there, as you can see, or his authority to offer immunity, all this technical legal stuff. But they were noticing that Smith is doing all kinds of shenanigans behind the scenes that they're like, wait a minute now. This is not legal. This is not legitimate. You show us your authority here. So they sent him that letter and they gave him 9 days to respond to that congressional inquiry. And Anna Paulina Luna just posted that literally within hours after the congressional inquiry, hours after her office sent Jack Smith the letter requiring him to produce requested information regarding his investigation, the case against Trump disappeared. It got removed from the D.C. court docket, which means that Jack Smith has got even more explaining to do, not less. But as we speak, and again, I kid you not, as we speak, this rogue D.C. prosecutor, Jack Smith, for all practical purposes, is basically in hiding. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The case has been removed from the docket, and Jack Smith he's gone ghost. He's basically hiding from this congressional inquiry. So something is up here, gang. Something smells quite rotten in Denmark, or in DC, better. Now, this, of course, all started with Jack Smith jumping the shark several weeks back. That's when we knew he was starting to get very, very desperate in all of this, in this weaponized lawfare that's trying to deliberately interfere with the 2024 election. As you know, a few weeks back, Smith filed a desperate appeal to the Supreme Court where he bypassed, and this is really unprecedented, he bypassed all lower appellate courts. Instead, he went straight to the Supreme Court, imploring the Supremes to make a special ruling, an expedited ruling, on whether President Trump can claim immunity from criminal charges for actions taken as president. Now, the reason why he did this is because Jack Smith's sole job here, as you know, is to interfere with the 2024 elections. He is both the Democrats and establishment Republicans, the uniparty's weapon to weaponize lawfare so as to interfere with the democratic integrity of an election, the 2024 election. That is Jack Smith. Right now, that is his sole reason for existence. His sole reason for existence is election interference. And that interference requires that Trump be convicted by a corrupt D.C. court of a felony before the November elections. Again, you have to keep in mind, originally they thought just the indictments themselves would be enough. Remember that. They thought the corrupt Manhattan DA, the Bragg's indictments would be enough. They thought the D.C. indictments would be enough. They thought the Mar-a-Lago indictments would be enough. They just thought that was it. That's all you needed. You didn't need any more than that. Fulton County, which is, of course, the Georgia Fulton County case is absolutely falling apart. I mean, my heavens, Fannie Willis is the one that may end up in prison. That's the hilarious part. She's going to get impeached or at least resign at some point. She with her boy toy scandal that's going on there. But they thought the indictments themselves would be enough to hurt Trump. They didn't. They had the opposite effect, right? They boomeranged, they backlash. Trump's polls only went up. So now they needed felony charges. They needed convictions. And the only way that they're going to get those convictions before the November elections is if the court stuck with the original March 4th trial date. So remember, it's this D.C. trial that was slated to be the first trial that would be the beginning of taking Trump down before the November elections, right? They picked March 4th deliberately. You know what March 4th is, right? It's the day before Super Tuesday. The trial was picked deliberately, politically, to take Trump off the campaign trail the day before the single most freaking important election day in the primaries. I mean, brazen doesn't even begin to describe these legally weaponized tactics. It's so pathetically, blatantly obvious what they're doing. This is a deliberate interference in an actual presidential election. I mean, this would make Kim Jong-un blush. He'd be like, guys, no, wait. I mean, at least banana republics try to pass off their weaponized legalism as legit. But regardless, the problem for Jack Smith to keep the sham trial date of March 4th was that Trump's attorneys filed brilliant, lengthy, well-thought-out motions reasoning that the Constitution, the doctrine of presidential immunity, required dismissal of this entire case. Now, of course, the radical leftist Marxist judge in this case, this D.C. case, Judge Chutkan, she, of course, denied each one of those motions. And so back on December 7th, Trump's legal team began the appeal process, right? Appealing Chutkan's denials to higher courts, the appellate courts. And that's precisely the problem for Jack Smith and his number one reason for existing, or his sole reason for existing on planet Earth right now, and that is to disrupt the democratic integrity of a presidential election. As long as these motions are going through the appellate process, the case against Trump is effectively stalled. There's nothing either Smith or Chutkan can do against Trump. And the appellate process could take months, going way beyond the November elections. And we can't have that, right? You can't. This whole sham trial has been scripted by the Rhino and Democrat establishment to get Trump convicted before the election. That's the script. That's what election interference is all about, making sure these things happen before election day. And so Jack Smith, in an act of total desperation, decided to file a motion directly to the Supreme Court, completely bypassing the lengthy appellate process. He wanted the Supreme Court to rule on Trump's immunity. Forget all the appellate courts. Supreme Court, tell us what you think. Now, he thought, obviously, that they would strike it down. But what's so hilarious is in this motion that he filed, he tried to convince the Supreme Court that they needed to rule right now. Smith demanded the Supreme Court rule right now, this current court session. It's imperative that you hand down a decision immediately. It has to be done before this session of the Supreme Court ends. Now, why on earth was it so important that this case be settled within this Supreme Court term as opposed to another term? Why is this term so important? Jack Smith never effing explains. He never even remotely gives any semblance of justification for why this decision had to be made now. He simply demanded it. He demanded that the court decide this issue before the current session is up, but never explains or justifies legally why such a speedy decision is necessary. And that's because we all know why. That's because even the Supreme Court knows why. It's because Jack Smith needs them to help him interfere in the 2024 election. It's because Jack Smith has been tasked by the Biden Justice Department to blatantly interfere in an election that the Democrats are going to get crushed in. With the legacy media's help, of course. The legacy media cheering him on all the way. Yeah, go Jack Smith. You're wonderful. Love you. Well, the Supremes obviously weren't convinced. Smith's motion to expedite the review of Trump's claim to immunity from prosecution was indeed shot down by the court. The Supreme Court saw through this. They saw how Smith was blatantly politicizing the legal system. They see how he's desperately and deliberately trying to usurp the appellate process, and they weren't buying it. They didn't give Smith the time of day. So the Supremes decided that Trump's immunity claim has to go through the lengthy, so arduously lengthy appellate process, which of course will most likely extend the trial way beyond the November election. And so it's been nearly 2 months now since Trump's sham criminal proceedings got paused in D.C. And now the huge development is not only that the March 4th date, the day before Super Tuesday, has that been scrubbed from the calendar. That's officially no longer happening. We knew that, by the way. We knew Jack Smith got his weaponized March 4th date scrubbed right in front of his pathetic face. We knew he would get this date scrubbed right off, totally off the calendar, right in front of his pathetic face. We knew that was going to happen. But now, I mean, the icing on the cake here, gang. Now, the case against Trump itself has been scrubbed from the calendar. It's gone. It's disappeared from the D.C. court docket. There is, as we speak, there is no trial for Trump scheduled in D.C. Now, of course, that can change as things develop. But for the time being, the trial has been delayed indefinitely. And Jack Smith is hiding to boot. He's hiding from the congressional inquiry, which I'm sure is only going to end up inquiring all the more. It's only going to end up heating up after all of this. And it gets worse. It gets worse. This indefinite postponement is not the single worst news that Bumbling Biden and his Democrat cohorts could have possibly gotten today. It actually gets worse for them. And it's the legacy media that's breaking this incredibly horrific news. Wait until you see this. This is going to absolutely make your day. But first, if you're just joining us, if you want to ask me a question, you'll find that our super chats have been disabled. That's because we have been demonetized by Google, the Grinches at Google, as I like to call them. So all you have to do if you want to ask me a question, just click on the link below and join our Insiders Club and ask me your questions through that platform. I'll answer them right here on this live stream. Just $5. That's it. $5 a month. It's cheaper than a price of like an Americano over at Starbucks. If you incline yourself toward, it's cheaper than a cup of coffee, and you can ask me as many questions as you like all throughout the month. So just click on that link below. Also, as many of you know too, I am a huge, and I'm talking huge, proponent of gold. The financial wizard Peter Schiff has often said, if you want to protect your savings, you can't do better than investing in gold. And that advice became all the more significant in light of President Trump's dire warning about America and the one thing we depend on to live, and that's the U.S. dollar. Gang, you may have heard Trump is predicting that we may indeed lose our status as the world's reserve currency in the not-so-distant future. In many respects, it's already happening. And this could adversely impact your retirement savings and your quality of life. So that's why you should take Trump's warning seriously by clicking on that link below right now, or go to turleywarning.com, because there you'll see what thousands of patriots are doing to help protect their savings before it's too late. Plus, when you click on that link below, you're even going to find out how you might get up to $10,000 in free silver to protect your savings. Gold and silver, gang, it doesn't get better. But don't wait. We may not have long if Trump's prophecy comes true. So hurry up, click on that link below right now, or go to turleywarning.com today. And that's key, for me, gang. We push Goldco here because I'm a true believer in gold. In these crazy times we're living, I know many of you are as well. Gold, solid gold, real estate as real money. Gold, and then you'll find this interesting for me, gold and crypto, right? This to me is the key, right? Gold keeps your money safe. That's how Peter Schiff puts it. Gold keeps your money safe, but crypto can grow your money. Schiff isn't a big fan of crypto, in fairness. I am. But that to me, it's gold and crypto. Gold, you keep your money safe, and crypto, you can grow your money. And Goldco is simply the best. They are patriots. They're friends to this channel. And so make sure to check them out. Click on that link below. All right. This news about Jack Smith's case against Trump getting indefinitely suspended could not have possibly come in a worse time for bumbling Biden and the demon Democrats. Look at this headline from Newsweek. This is absolutely incredible. I want to get this up here. Joe Biden suffers polling disaster against Donald Trump. This is Newsweek. Again, this isn't Breitbart. This isn't Gateway Pundit. This is Newsweek. And the polling disaster they're talking about is even being referred to by CNN contributors, CNN, as, quote, a 5-alarm fire for Biden. Now, what they're talking about is the latest Bloomberg Morning Consult poll of battleground states. We've been talking about it all week. It dropped early this week. We knew it was significant. We knew this was huge. It took a while to matriculate itself through the ranks of the legacy media that basically are just burying their head in the sand, and then they just take it out to go, oh, Trump sucks, Trump sucks, Trump sucks, Trump sucks, kind of thing. So we've been talking. We were ahead of the curve here, but now it's caught up. This was yesterday, this headline, February 1st. Now it's caught up in the legacy media. And they're looking at this Bloomberg Morning Consult poll. These are battleground states. And the more the political establishment crunches the numbers, the more they look at the crosstabs, the methodology, the weighting samples, and the like, the more they assess the integrity of the poll, the more they're beginning to absolutely freak out. I mean, this is really starting to hit them here. I mean, again, gang, as you know, every day I go through massive numbers of headlines and read through articles from the legacy media. Okay, I can't even count how many a day. It's got to be, near 100 every day. Gang, they're panicking. They're freaking out. You're seeing an intensity of alarm here among them. Now, if you're not familiar with these numbers, Trump right now, as we speak, according to this poll, Trump is up 10 in North Carolina. He's up 8 in Nevada. Gang, Republican hasn't won Nevada in decades. He's up 8 in Nevada. That's an insurmountable lead at this point. Okay, Nevada's going red. And you know why? It's largely because of the Latino vote, ironically. The Latino vote is turning ridiculously and overwhelmingly MAGA. Okay, so he's up 8 in Nevada. Trump's up 8 in Georgia. He's up 5 in Wisconsin. Again, remember, Wisconsin was a state Biden was supposed to win by 17 back in 2020. And by the way, that's the election. If it's Trump and up at 8 in Georgia, 8 in Nevada, 5 in Wisconsin, if I get my electoral votes right, that's it. It's done. But it keeps going. He's up 5 in Michigan. Then that's really done. He's up 3 in Pennsylvania. That's really, really, really done. He's up 3 in Arizona. Gang, that's the election. That's it. It's over. If these numbers hold, and if the election integrity laws that were passed in Arizona and Georgia and Wisconsin remain secure to protect us from Democrat shenanigans, which will happen, right? We have to be prepared for that. But if all that holds and we're able to hold the shenanigans down to at least a minimum, that's the ball game, gang. That's Trump in an electoral landslide. That's Trump way beyond the 300. That's Trump beyond 2016. Not only that, but the Epoch Times is reporting now that Trump is absolutely crushing Biden in freaking fundraising. Now let that hit you. Trump is crushing the incumbent in fundraising. Historically, the one advantage an incumbent president always has is fundraising. He's the freaking president. He can raise as much money as he wants. The incumbent president always has the monetary advantage in any election. Not this time. According to the Federal Elections Commission, Trump raked in over $10 million more than Biden in 2023. 10 freaking million. Again, we talked about this earlier this week. We're seeing this in real time, right? We're seeing big money GOP donors, the so-called mega donors. They're all lining up behind Trump right now. Yesterday, Politico reported that Trump met with several Republican mega donors in Las Vegas over the weekend, and they all came out 100% in support of Trump and his march towards the White House. And we reported this earlier this week. Politico talks about it. Many of these mega donors were once DeSantis donors. Remember the DeSantis donors and the DeSantis campaign that told, Trump can never win. All these indictments are going to hurt him. Indictments are going to hurt. He can't win. There's no way. A vote for Trump is a vote for Biden. Vote DeSantis. DeSantis can win. These are the mega donors writing the checks for that campaign. That now failed campaign. That literally crashed and burned campaign. So instead of picking up their ball and going home because they were so into Ron DeSantis and they knew there was no way Trump could ever possibly win if he got the nomination, instead of acting out the way that their campaign claimed all those months, they are putting all of their mega millions in with Trump. And why are they doing that? If they thought Trump was going to lead the GOP to an electoral disaster, like the Ron DeSantis campaign originally tried to convince us of, they wouldn't be pumping millions into Trump. They're pumping millions into his campaign because they recognize that Trump is on his way to crushing this. They see the writing on the wall. And it's not hard to see. And I mean, in fact, if you think it through, you have to be willfully blind not to see it. And it's not just that Trump is crushing it either. This, gang, that's just half of the equation that they're seeing. There's another side of the equation that they're seeing. Again, they just, maybe because they read the New York Times too much, or for the Wall Street Journal for that matter, or maybe they're watching Fox too much or CNN. I don't know. But there is another side to this equation that they're recognizing that's causing them to pump more and more millions into Trump's coffers. It's not that Trump is just surging. It's the fact that Biden is what? We just saw it. Again, notice it's a twofold dynamic going on. It's not like both these guys are surging and, man, this is going to be neck and neck, right? It's going to be a photo finish. No. Trump is politically surging all at the same time. What? Biden is what? Biden is politically imploding. We have never seen polls this disastrous for an incumbent. And I'm going to show you exactly how Trump's 2024 strategy is deliberately and effectively bringing these dynamics about. His 2024 strategy is deliberately and brilliantly bringing about this dynamic of insurgence and implosion. Maybe I should not say insurgents. Oh, it's off the dock anyway. It doesn't matter, right? Trump's strategy is causing a dynamic of insurgence for him and implosion for Biden. I'm going to show you exactly how, and this is going to give you a lot of confidence for the rest of 2024. But gang, first, let's talk about something that's going to blow you away, but in the wrong way. And that, of course, is the corruption and the rot that pervades our ruling elite. Have you seen the latest report on politicians trading in 2023? Have you seen this? You can put it into Twitter. You can see it right now. It's maddening. These corrupt politicians beat the market every single year. You could see some politicians have hit returns at 200%. How do you get investment returns at 200% on the stock market? How's that even possible? Well, guess what? Guess what? That's exactly what you are going to learn how to do as well. You need to click on the link below and get in touch with my good friend Ross Givens and Trader Insiders. They are amazing. They're going to teach you how you can stick it to the establishment by actually using their own corruption against them. Thanks to a little-known SEC database, guess what? We can have access to the very same trading secrets that these politicians are privy to. We get to see what stocks corporate CEOs are buying up in real time, and then we get to piggyback on their trades to gain the same advantage for ourselves that Pelosi and the crooks and DC have. My friend Ross Givens has been tracking insider trading for years, and his recommendations have led to investment returns of over 200%. Some have hit as high as nearly 1,500%. And gang, now it's your turn. Click on that link below right now. Learn how you too can learn to trade like Pelosi. And click on that link. Learn how to gain an insider advantage for yourself today. Ross is amazing. I love Ross. I talk with him once every couple of weeks. His system is, gang, it's awesome. Click on that link. You're going to love this. This is neat stuff. I love how patriots can tap into the very corrupt practices that our permanent political elite are getting into, but we're not getting bribed, right? It's not being used for us to get bribed. It's actually a very legitimate, ethical way of doing it on our end, obviously not on theirs, because they use it to curry favor. We don't. We use it to build the parallel economy and bless our family and friends. Click on that link. You're going to love Ross. He's amazing. All right. The Washington Examiner had a fascinating piece out yesterday. Happy February again to everybody. The piece is entitled, "Biden is Drowning in 3 Disasters of His Own Making." Yes, it's not just one, it's 3. And the editors point out that these 3 disasters are the chaos in the Middle East and just around the world in general, the chaos at the southern border, and the chaos in the economy. These are the 3 unmitigated disasters. It's literally a perfect storm that is destroying the Biden administration, and he only has himself to blame. It's his own incompetence that created these 3 disasters. Now, again, Peter Schiff is among many who are arguing that in many ways we're already in a recession. I'm sure many of you are feeling this right now. And when you add the growing inflation numbers we got in December, it's more of a stagflation, right? So you got higher prices for the staples of the economy, food, heat, mortgages, and the like, all as the periphery of the economy, entertainment, restaurants, the vacation industry, they begin to recede. So that's called stagflation. And the key here is that, as we often point out, no incumbent, historically speaking, no incumbent has ever successfully won re-election whenever a recession occurred in the last 2 years of his presidency. So you want to talk about a 5-alarm fire for Biden? That would just be one crisis. He's got 2 more. He's got the border crisis, and he's got the international order crisis, particularly in the Middle East. Now, the key politically to all of this is the way the Trump campaign is effectively and consistently keeping all three of these disasters on the front page. And again, the Washington Examiner, which remember is no friend of Trump's, Washington Examiner, my opinion, was all in on Ron DeSantis. Well, I won't even get in it, but even they recognize Trump's brilliant reelection strategy. Trump has been hammering Biden with a constant contrasting of their two records. Trump's message is simple, right? It's very simple. I mean, explain this to your woke friends. It's very easy. And again, you could look at him and say, it's not even a matter of, quote, is it true? The polls are showing a lot of people believe it to be true. So you could just, again, because they'll push you back. I always like to argue descriptively rather than prescriptively. I always like to argue, here's just the fact. Here's what's really happening. What do you do with that? Do you just throw it under the rug, sweep it under the rug, or you have to deal with it? And here's the simple facts. When I was president, we had peace abroad, prosperity home, and a secure border. When I was president, we had peace abroad, prosperity at home, and a secure border. Biden comes in, and suddenly everything unravels. Now, all we have are wars abroad, depression at home, and the southern border is a mess. Vote for me, and I'll restore peace, prosperity, and security. I will make America great again. It's the easiest election campaign platform we've ever seen. When I was president, everything was great. When Biden came in, he screwed up everything. Vote for me and I'll make everything great again. Now, again, if you're talking to somebody who's woke, no, that's not true. Everything was horrible under Trump. Everything's beautiful. But okay, I know you think that way. But this is the messaging, the consistent messaging that Trump is giving. And what we're finding objectively in the polling is that it's resulting in a twofold effect, a twofold dynamic, contrasting directions for the contrasting trends for the candidates. It's causing Trump's poll numbers to surge to extraordinary levels. Rich Barris had an amazing, the People's Fund had an amazing live stream the other day where he basically said, we have never seen a Republican presidential candidate. So he's comparing it to Bush Jr., right? He's comparing it to all kinds, comparing it to Romney. Obviously, Romney was horrible. Comparing it to McCain, comparing it to Bush when Bush was running particularly for re-election. He's comparing it to even going all the way back to Bush Sr. We have never seen a Republican candidate with this level of polling dominance this early in the election. We've never seen it. So it's causing Trump's poll numbers to surge to literally unprecedented levels. And simultaneously at the exact time, it's causing Biden's poll numbers to plummet. This is the key to that messaging. It's not a matter of Trump and Biden both surging, both coming to a photo finish. The very fact that Trump is able to foreground these three issues, peace versus war abroad, prosperity versus depression here at home, security versus chaotic border, those three issues alone are driving Trump's poll numbers up and crashing Biden's poll numbers down. Again, gang, it is no coincidence that right now 7 in 10 voters, 70%, want the government to crack down on illegal immigration and close the border. 70, that's beyond a supermajority. 70%. According to the latest Harvard-Harris poll, a plurality of voters, 35%, among all of the nation's top issues that they consider most important, 35% rank illegal immigration as the nation's number one concern. Number one, jumping 7 points since last month. And the overwhelming majority blame Biden for worsening the situation. The insanity at the southern border is literally killing Biden politically. That alone could kill him. But then you combine it with the economy, where no incumbent has successfully won re-election when a recession hit in their last 2 years of their presidency. And then you put in the disaster in the Middle East and Ukraine. I mean, Trump has become super successful in amassing support for his position on issues that already have a supermajority behind them. A supermajority wants the border closed. A supermajority wants Bidenomics gotten rid of, and they want energy independence. They want manufacturing and industry returned to our shores, and they want a booming economy. 95% want that, obviously. And a supermajority want peace abroad. They don't want war. Nobody wants war. You even heard Joy Reid. Did you catch that on MSNBC? Even freaking Joy Reid, the most woke member of MSNBC, that's saying, I mean, she's basically Rachel Maddow on steroids. She saw Joe Biden talking about announcing that we may be taking some military action overseas. And what did she say on the hot mic moment? Well, the camera was still focused on, but oh, here we go, another effing war. Nobody wants this. Left, right, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat. A supermajority is amassing that wants peace abroad, prosperity at home, and a secure border. And it's Trump that's giving it to him, and it's Biden that fails. So all of this is to say that Jack Smith's case, in the end, could not have imploded at a worse time. The indictments aren't working. The convictions aren't working. And Biden's poll numbers continue to plummet. And 2024 has only just begun. Over to you. As Josh, our moderator, puts together your questions, remember, if you want to ask a question, because YouTube has demonetized our channel, just click on the link below. Join our Insiders Club. Ask me your questions through that platform. That's at join.turleytalks.com. Just click on that, or just go to join.turleytalks.com. Join our Insiders Club. Again, gang, I can't thank you enough. We're approaching 6,000 Insiders Club subscribers. You guys are amazing. We have a live Q&A, just us, every Monday night. So make sure you do it. You're going to love it. We have all kinds of networking for building the parallel economy. Click on the link below. Join the Insiders Club. Ask me any questions you like. Through that platform, I'll answer it here. Just $5 a month. $5. Price of a single cup of coffee at Starbucks. You can ask me all the questions you like. Oh, and on top of that, one more thing here.
I'll be back.
That's right, gang. He is back. We're back. We're all back. It's time to show our support and celebrate the great return by clicking on the link below and getting your very own Trumpinator 2024 bobblehead in preparation for Donald Trump's glorious reascendance to the United States presidency. I've got mine, gang. You're going to love this. This collectible bobblehead from Proud Patriots. It's made with the highest quality material, and it really is a must-have for any Trump fan who just wants to send some awesome energy towards what's shaping up to be the single most glorious political comeback in history. Now, gang, don't wait. There are just a limited number of these collectibles. You want to be caught paying way more later on eBay when someone who bought one now gets it. So whatever you do, don't wait. Click on that link below right now and get your very own Trump 2024 Trumpinator bobblehead today. I got mine, Ken. Look at this guy. Hey, Mr. Trump. Oh, and I love the box. I keep the box. I put him up there, usually on the mantle up there. And he is just awesome. So I'm going to put him right here, my little bobblehead Trump. All right, what do we got here, Josh? Mickey! Newsweek had a report out this morning saying Biden would beat Trump with the way the country's set up for voters. Now, I don't believe it, but wonder what you might think. Yeah, so they're drawing from what study was it? There was a study done on, I can't even remember now who did it. Was it Barron's or Roy? I forget. I shouldn't throw out names, but it's a Hail Mary kind of study that they did. Rich Barris talked about it on the People's Pundit. It's lunacy. It really is lunacy at this point. I think even at that one, what did they do? They gave Trump Pennsylvania, but they gave Biden Arizona or something. It was just stupid. It was just I think they even had North Carolina going blue, and it was they even had Texas as light red. Like, in other words, it could flip blue. Trump has the highest lead any Republican has seen in Texas in decades. So I think it's wishful thinking at this point. I would want to check the crosstabs in detail, but at this point, I wouldn't pay any attention to it. Again, it's just what it's trying to do is it's trying to breathe life into a dying campaign. That's what it's trying to do. It's very consider it like a Nikki Haley tactic. Dave, thank you, sir. Are there any studies about what percentage of Russians are true believers in communism during the Soviet years? It'd be nice if Rich Barris could time travel back and tell. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, the one study on Russian inclinations and dispositions towards the church came out in 1991 when Russians were asked if they consider themselves Russian Orthodox and if they believed in the church particularly, and only about 30% said yes at the time. I think a lot of them were scared to say anything more than that, but they said yes at the time. Today, it's hit 80%. So, I mean, they're going through a massive revival. So, yeah, it'd be a good question to see. I could not imagine a lot of them did the way the Soviet Union fell and how fast it fell, falling first on the frontiers in Eastern Europe. Berlin Wall collapses, and then literally months later, by December of 91, Soviet Union had collapsed as well. And that's, again, we talked about that on, I think, Monday night's live stream. This parallels with what is happening to Biden. Scholars note that regimes tend to implode from within after they first imploded from without. So historically speaking, when regimes fall at the frontier, when they lose their territorial claims over frontier areas like the Soviet Union lost with, say, Eastern Europe and Afghanistan collectively at the same time, and they had to withdraw their forces, that made them incredibly weak domestically and internally. And then that rose up alternative political forces at that time, like Boris Yeltsin, where they saw it was their chance now to gain a political advantage and leverage over the up to that point reigning paradigm, reigning establishment. So Biden's horrific blunder in Afghanistan really seems to be resonating now here in DC. So we can literally see a fall from Kabul, the fall of Kabul to a fall of the deep state in DC via Biden, and kind of trace a straight line there. And hopefully all the people who would have said, oh, no, I'm all for Biden and wokeness. And so hopefully those sentiments will collapse just as quick as they collapsed in the Soviet Union as well. Thank you, Dave. Franz, would it be fair to say that BRICS is evidence of an external fragmentation, and how does multipolarity affect the Treasury's ability to impose sanctions? So evidence of external fragmentation, I think you're talking about the unipolar world, the geopolitical world. I think that's because that's what you seem to be getting at. So, yeah, no, absolutely. So I see in many ways where we are right now as the single biggest paradigm shift the world has seen in 300 years since the Enlightenment, when the modern world officially began philosophically. Then that's in the 18th century, then 19th century. societally through the Industrial Revolution, and then 20th century politically and economically through a one-size-fits-all globalist political and economic order that was enforced through what we call the unipolar world, where one superpower, the United States, basically created the rules for everyone else in the world to play by, and those rules were enforced by institutions like the WTO, IMF, World Bank. So the institutions provide the order of world order. That's how we play, and we it was our institutions were the only ones that survived post 1991 fall Soviet Union. So ours was it. So everybody, Eastern Europe and so forth, everybody was starting to join. Even China was joining our institutions, G20, WTO, IMF, and that created a singular one-size-fits-all political and economic order, increasingly cultural order in terms of liberalism and wokeness for the rest of the world. If you were with us, you were an angel. If you were against us, you were a demon. That was the notion. BRICS is now a challenge to that. BRICS is, in effect, creating an alternative parallel world order. So the parallel economy goes way beyond Rumble, goes way beyond True Social, right? The parallel economy is it's literally what's referred to as a frontier economy. It is a worldwide phenomenon that is being organized now around the institutional structures of BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and it's now technically BRICS Plus with all the OPEC countries now that have joined. I did read one study, I think yesterday, that said that its economy now, its total economy and population, the populations are affected, has surpassed that of the Western structure, which is and particularly G20 nations, which is pretty astonishing. I mean, how could it not, with these astonishing manufacturing power base of both China and India, as well as the intellectual property power base of China and India, and then of course the military might and the commodity-based economy of Russia. So and then of course the OPEC nations. So what that is doing now is it has created effectively a shield, an economic shield for all BRICS Plus member nations from Western sanctions. They could be kicked off SWIFT tomorrow, the International Financial Transaction Platform. They could be kicked off SWIFT tomorrow. It won't bother them at all. They just go to KIPS, which is the Chinese version. No problem whatsoever. Last I saw, I think Russia does 90% of all trade transactions in the indigenous currencies. They don't even give the dollar the time of day, because again, we weaponized the dollar against Russia, and we threatened, to weaponize the dollar against countries that didn't back us, and our foolhardy belief that by arming Ukraine we could push back Russia and get regime change. It was insane. And it was a disaster. So absolutely, I think it's fair to say BRICS is breaking up the unipolar world. That's the external fragmentation that's happening to the United States. That's the new paradigm shift. That's how the globalist world is falling apart, and a new multipolar civilizational world is growing. And then that is effectively financially shielding member nations from the Treasury's ability to impose sanctions, because they're doing all their trade in non-dollars. So it doesn't affect them in the least. So good stuff, Franz. Brian, Dr. Steve, where will be the 51st state? I say it's Mexico. Wait, what about New California? Haven't you heard of New California? Come on, man. What should be the 51st state? 52nd, 71st, establish Joven Pulitzer free and fair election protocol, then ask the world who will be the first 51st state. There you go. You lost me there, Brian. That's not you. It's me. I just don't have the frames of reference. So I have no idea what the 51st state would be. I don't think Americans are that interested in having any more states and taking on any more responsibilities and increasing. Again, keep in mind, every time we increase our frontiers, we make ourselves more vulnerable. Every time we increase our frontiers in any way, shape, or form, we make ourselves vulnerable to inward collapse, because the moment we start losing influence in those frontier regions territorially, we start losing influence domestically. So we have to be very careful with that. Thank you, Brian. Sterling, will the courts drop the case in Georgia out the Fannie Willis crowd? I have a feeling no one would go near the thing. This was a Fannie Willis specific case. She ran on it. She promised she was going to. It's very similar, like Alvin Bragg in Manhattan. These people see this as their opportunity to get famous. Fannie Willis apparently, allegedly saw it as her opportunity to get rich, paying her boy toy, again, allegedly $1 million, and then going off on fancy vacations from there. So I have a feeling it'll be dropped like a hot potato. Rumble chat. Thank you, sir. I tried to join and support, but it keeps saying my request is denied and no reason why. Josh, I don't know if you could talk to Hannah about that and see what's going on. I would love to have you on there. And unfortunately, it's BWOO. We'll take care of Josh, our moderator, so we'll take care of that. We'll get your information. We have it through the Rumble chat, or we're going to somehow get your information. We're going to take care of that for you. Don't worry. So yeah, it must be a glitch in the system. Peter the Great, love it. Are you concerned about the large number of military-age males being imported into the country? Of course. Yeah, this is serious stuff. I mean, this is, we focus on positive things here to counteract all the negativity you tend to see in conservative news. But this is one that's perfectly legit. I mean, you can't remember Viktor Orban of Hungary in his last re-election, which he won by a landslide. It was his third or fourth in a row. Viktor Orban's very powerful pitch was, look, when it comes to any other policy for Hungary, we could always reverse it. You could vote me out, okay? Vote me out, and then we could bring in this, the left's horrible economic policies, no problem. Then conservatives will come back and we'll change it. Or they can have some foreign relation IR policies that we think are a bit of a disaster, trade policies we don't like, no problem. We can reverse it. They might have some zoning policies that we think is a disaster preventing for building up businesses. No problem. We can reverse it. Orban looks into the camera and says, gang, if they start importing migrants by the hundreds of thousands into Hungary, gang, we can't reverse that. 4-6 years of that, they become embedded in our society, for right or for wrong, enclaves or what, they're there. We can't necessarily get rid of them. That is a policy that can't be reversed. And that's what I fear. Trump is talking about the largest deportation operation we've seen in history. But how are you going to deport 30? Well, what was it? The Harvard study? I forget the Yale study found 30. They think it's 30 million illegal immigrants in our country right now. Where are you even going to find them? So this is dangerous stuff. And the one bright side to it is that it is a demographic, as we've talked about before. It's a demographic that is most inclined towards intermarriage. So when you break down ethnic demographics and you see the extent to which they marry into the general population, the dominant ethnicity of a population, most ethnicities are in the low minority. So the enclave ethnicities, the minority ethnicities, are in the low minority. They don't tend to incline themselves towards intermarriage, whereas Hispanics, Latinos have very, very almost 50% intermarriage rates. And then what we found is when they intermarry, they do get integrated into the country and its cultural traditions and tend to become very, very conservative. And that's what we're seeing in real time with the Latino shift towards MAGA. Again, not towards Republicans, but towards MAGA. They're very suspicious of Republicans, as they ought to be. Mitt Romney's, McConnell's, right? McDonald's, right? But they're very pro-MAGA. And so if the Republican Party embraces MAGA fully, we will see Latinos as being one of the major dominant majorities of our party, a majority of that demographic as Republicans. So it will only serve to backfire. But until then, it's very dangerous stuff. Missy, do you think McConnell will succeed in getting Republicans to vote for the new immigration bill from him and Schumer without reading it as usual? How can we stop this from continuing? How can we stop this continuing practice? It's a good question. I don't think they have the votes. I don't think they're going to have the votes, and I don't think it'll even come close to passing the House. So I don't even know if Johnson will bring it up for a vote. So I don't think it's going to happen. It's insane. It is a perfect example of the Republicans snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I mean, they just, at a time when the country is literally united in their disdain for open borders and illegal immigration, what the F do Republicans start doing? I mean, again, this is what I mean. It's got to be scripted. This shit has got to be scripted. I mean, they call it virtual politics. It is a literal field of study where our politics is basically scripted. It's primarily scripted by the media. The media is the one through what's called agenda setting theory. It's actually the media in Western democracies that pushes the major political issues, and behind that veneer, behind that veil, it's corporate executives, Wall Street executives who are pushing. So the mediaocracy actually turns out to be just simply an oligarchy. It's just the wealthy few, the CEOs who own all the media companies, pushing their own agenda. And then they basically write the scripts for these freaking politicians. And so when the country is turning against illegal immigration, literally like never before. I mean, it's not like Pat Buchanan wasn't warning us about this in 1996, right? And Ross Perot as well in 92, 96, 2000 as well to an extent. We've never, ever, ever been this horrified by illegal immigration. And so what do the powers that be, the corporate CEOs, instruct their little puppets that they pay for with their stroked checks, their puppets in DC to do? Oh, public opinion is turning against this issue that we want and we support for our cheap labor and for more, subservient subjects that we get to dictate to them what to buy and how to use their money. So, hey, Republicans, you need to step up and try to pass some amnesty. There you go. That'll sway at least some opinion our way, and that'll get some of the bought and paid for think tanks like in DC and New York, like NRO and all these. I shouldn't say that about NRO, but I think they're bought and paid for at least. And then they'll start writing some. There's a good point. We do have to have this amnesty, and they'll just follow suit. It's just that's the way the system works. So no, all you have to do is just keep pushing back and let your politicians know you vote for this. I will not rest until you are kicked out of office. I don't care if we stick a Democrat in. You're gone. You're out. That's all, because that's the only thing. They have no power if they're not in office. Period. They have no power. They can become lobbyists. They can shift that power, but not everybody can become a lobbyist. So they have no power. They do not control trillions and trillions of dollars if they're not in office. So that is a very, very effective threat. Jules, Steve found out that the refugees from Afghanistan hang off the plane were moved from the military location where they moved. Some are terrorists. Where the F are they? They're military-age men. Good question, Jules. I don't know. This is the maddening part about illegal immigration. Again, nobody here has any problem with legal immigration. 90% of the countries that we live in today are multi-ethnic in some way, shape, or form. But legal immigration allows you to maintain national security in the midst of, quote, strangers. I mean, literally just coming in and into your country. And every wisdom tradition, like the Pied Piper, right? The story of the Pied Piper. Every wisdom tradition always tells you, beware the stranger. Beware the stranger, right? The Pied Piper comes in, says, hey, I can perform a favor for you. I can get rid of these, what was it, the rats, the mice, or whatever it was. I can perform this wonderful favor. And the people go, oh, okay, sure, go ahead and do it. And then what is it? They don't pay him or something. They don't reciprocate. And so what does he do? Well, I don't know if you know the original story, the original fable. He leads their children away. He takes their children as retaliation against the town for not paying him, if I recall. In other words, you got to be careful of strangers. They can be good, they can be bad. And that's where screening comes in, right? So we bring in all of these strangers, all in the name of compassion and goodness and blah, blah, blah. And, like what we saw in New York the other day, they can go and start assaulting officers, and then freaking New York courts can let them off. And then don't be surprised if they come around and lead your children away, as it were, right? So I heard that put, I think it was Jonathan Peugeot did a great analogy of that with, we brought in all this technology and say, oh yeah, technology is great. Now all our kids are addicted to TikTok. That's the idea. The stranger, oh, no problem. The stranger's going to do all these favors for us. But if we're not careful, the stranger can end up taking our kids. And now our kids are addicted to TikTok. So there you go. That's a way of thinking it wisely about the stranger. Thank you, Jules. Martin, yesterday, Chuck Holson showed us that the border in Texas was wide open at the end of the wall within 2 miles of the razor wire barriers. What do you think? I saw that. I saw a video too where it was very easy for them to just if they would just follow all the way around, kind of go around. Absolutely. I mean, again, this is for Abbott right now to plug up. He's got to plug up as much of the border as possible. The big one was through the Eagle Pass. I don't know if that's still Eagle Pass, but that was where you're through that park. Eagles Pass was just, I even have a friend who's in a Texas militia down there, a border militia, who's showing us pictures of that. If you're an Insiders Club member, you would see that, by the way, guys. Join the Insiders Club. We had an amazing 1.5-hour evening presentation. We all saw firsthand what was happening at the border from a border militia member, one of our members. It was absolutely riveting. Everyone was crying. I mean, it was really sad. It's really sad what's happened, particularly to kids and to women. So absolutely, they have to plug it up. There's just no question about it. And it's maddening that it's taking so long to do so. Chuck, do you see a massive market crash coming in 2024, pushed along by the deep state via planned schemes or a false flag, which could also lead to martial law and cancellation of the November election and a total market crash? Not at this point, Chuck. I mean, again, I put nothing past these people. They're worse than we can ever imagine. Okay. So I don't put anything past them, but I'm not seeing any signs of that really. As a matter of fact, ironically, I talked about this in yesterday's video. Ironically, one of George Soros's old associates is predicting, he's calling it a Trump run on the market. He thinks the market's actually going to start exploding throughout 2024 as we get closer to the election, precisely because so much of the population, particularly the investing population, believes that Trump is going to win. So maybe they could try to find a way of pulling the plug. But again, I don't know if they'll want to do that. The oligarchs are in power. They want money. So I don't know if they're going to push a market crash, because that's a lot of unless they start pulling their money out. So that would get our concerns. And by the way, that's Ross Givens. Make sure you click on the link below. Check out Ross's wonderful program that he has to show you how to track what these guys are investing in. It's really pretty impressive. So I don't think we're there yet, but I wouldn't put anything past them. Charles, This is for IT department. This is for IT department. If that's code, I do. Oh, here we go. For IT, please help. I cannot listen on my PC. Please start sending notices on both text and email with links to watch live streams. Right now, I'm only getting text or post live link on Mighty Networks, I believe so. Okay, Charles, Josh, can you make a note of that so we can help out Charles? We want to help out each and every one of our. Yep, Josh has got it. Charles, he's on it. Lee Daniels, how can we fix all the corruption? It just seems to be so systematic. It is. And you saw that with Kerry Lake, right? Well, I mean, that's it. I think like what we saw with that Arizona Republican chairman, he had to resign after the corruption was revealed. But again, that was because Kerry didn't take the bait. Lake has so much integrity. Because what they do, as you could see, the modus operandi is they do bribe you effectively. She names a price. Well, 10 mil. Yeah, give me 10 mil. I'll drop out for 2 years and I'll come back. Great. Give me a like with Nikki Haley. Give me a seat on, Boeing or something like that. But then they have you on tape taking a bribe, and then they use that against you, and that's how they get all of these politicians to do what they want. It's not just the carrot, right? There's also the threat, very real threat of the stick, that they have something on you. So it is systemic, and it's going to require people of integrity. Again, if they had anything on Trump, say what you want about the guy. If they had anything on him, it would have come out years ago. They are literally searching for a crime right now. It's hilarious. It makes banana republics blush by comparison. So we're going to have to bring in people of integrity. There's no way around it. And then we're going to have to pass laws. I am a firm believer that if you're a member of Congress, you should not be allowed to trade. I'm a firm believer of that for the time. And maybe that'll keep them in Congress only for a few years, and then they'll leave. So there's your term limits right there. But if you're a congressman, you have to put a stay on all of your stocks. You are not allowed to trade. No more Pelosi's. No more 200% returns, beating the market every year. No, that's being used in nefarious ways. So again, we can do that. We can advantage ourselves of this inside information via the SEC database because we're not being bribed. We're not being bribed with this information. We're using it just for the advantage of the parallel economy, for patriots, for our family, our loved ones. So I'm a huge proponent of that. And I think that'll do. And we have to take some of this money out of our politics. Again, that is a bipartisan agreement there. That's a very populist position. So there you go, Lee. And how are these people not embarrassed with themselves? I'd be hiding my head in the sand. I would too. It's the Don Lemon curse. Remember Don Lemon of CNN? Now coming to Twitter, apparently, interestingly enough. Welcome. That's the way we are. We're free speech people. Come on. More the merrier. But Tucker used to say of him every night, he ought to be embarrassed, but he's not. Which is even more embarrassing. It's even more cringeworthy. He ought to be embarrassed, but he's not. I think there's something there. Yeah, again, these people are just narcissists when all said and done. Franz, did you know that one of your insiders has a trucking company is sending 25 trucks to Texas? Ding, 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 ding. Where's my bell? We are making up a bell right now. It's really cool, right? Smack that bell and subscribe on it. But a Liberty Bell, a new birth of liberty, a symbol that we are the new generation of founding fathers. Remember, the true founding fathers were the people. That's what Robert Barnes likes to point out. It was not necessarily aristocrats writing God bless them, writing the wonderful documents and so forth. But it was the people who rose up and fought for a new age of liberty. So we're making up a bell. I would ring it for you, Franz, right now. Let us know who that is if possible. Love to hear that. That is awesome. 25 trucks in Texas. Maybe we can have a live stream interview. That'd be awesome. Love it. Linda, what do you think really happened in Lahaina? Oh, what's your assessment of what's happening now? To my shame, Linda, I have not kept up with it. As you know, I did do a video when it first came out. Obviously, it was a massive cover-up, without question. It remains so, but I have not kept myself abreast of that tragedy, that horrific, horrific tragedy. I don't think we still even know how many kids were killed, right? I don't think we have an official number, or the official number is just ridiculously low. So we'll have to see. I mean, the last I was, God forbid. I mean, the last I was seeing was, these big, massive multinational conglomerates coming in and what do you call them, hawks, or just trying to buy up the place. And build up malls and casinos and hotels. I haven't kept abreast of it. And God bless everyone there. Deborah, but isn't the appeal of the immunity question still on the dock? So it's going through the appellate process, but that could take months. And the whole point of Jack Smith was to have Trump convicted before November, and that looks like it ain't gonna happen. It's just not going to happen. And the Florida judge isn't complying much with him either. So it looks like he's just getting railroaded. So yes, it's still, the Supreme Court will have to rule on that. Yes, but it's going through the appellate process, and the Supreme Court will not take it up. And it could be next session. It could be the session following. There's no sense of when they would necessarily take it up. Carlos, what do you think about the probability that Biden drops out of the race and Michelle Obama enters in? I think it's low. I do. It's an intriguing thing, but Michelle doesn't poll very well. I mean, the sad fact of the matter is Biden is the strongest candidate they have. That's the assumption behind that, is that there are stronger candidates like Gavin Newsom, right? No one's talking about Kamala, of course. Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama, right? Somebody else, anybody but Joe. But the reality is the opposite. The numbers don't lie. Michelle Obama does not poll well. Gavin Newsom polls worse than Biden. And then cackles, forget about it. I mean, I don't even know if they'll bother having an election. They'll give Trump the presidency. They're like, here, just take it, man. Just please get this woman out of here. Democrats hate her just as much. So right now, I don't think it's very likely. I think Joe's their candidate. He is declining, even in that hidden camera that James O'Keefe, that hidden camera sting that O'Keefe Media showed the other day of one of Biden's underlings. Even he was admitting Biden's cognitively falling apart. Everyone see. I mean, you notice that the way he speaks has gone down dramatically. It's declined dramatically. So he's just going to continue to decline. But he's the best they got. And I think they think with him they can minimize the damage done down ticket. Lee, do you find it odd that Biden still has all the poll numbers? He's still Democrats can't possibly feel Biden could be propped up another 4 years. No, I'm with you. I don't think they're low enough. I think he should be in the 20s easily. And he is, keep in mind, in polls, he's consistently in the 20s among independents. He is in the battleground states. But I agree. I mean, that's just partisan loyalty at this point. It's 32% of the country saying I'm voting Biden no matter what. He's my man. Nathan, I love Trump and I already consider him to be my president, but if he's accepting money from big donors, how's that any different than what DeSantis was doing? Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, no, I know. That's a good question. And that, well, I mean, this is the way politics is played. So I don't fault DeSantis for taking big money. He's got to take money big money. If he spent $60 million in Iowa, you got to take big money if you're going to be competitive. It's the way that money can be used, like we saw with Kerry Lake, where they try to write checks to make you do what they want. And we saw that with DeSantis. He changed his view on Ukraine in 24 hours, apparently, from one phone call from one donor. He gave Tucker asked him in writing, just asked all the candidates at the time, Republican candidates, what's your view of Ukraine? And DeSantis gave him a really good answer. It was very good, basically saying it has no strategic value to the United States. We should obviously support any country that's being bullied or bludgeoned by a bigger force and so forth. But we have no business ever sending troops there. We could send them aid and some money, but we shouldn't even be sending weapons there. And then within 24 hours, he changed his mind and said, no, I'm all for the continuing the Biden policy on Ukraine, basically what he said. I have not seen Trump do anything like that. Trump does not seem to be in a position where he's held hostage by a donor because he has too much personal wealth that DeSantis doesn't have. So I would say that's the major difference. But until we get rid of money, you've got to play by the game. Don't play holier than thou kind of stuff. This is politics. Politics is dirty, rough, seedy stuff. Okay. The moment we start playing holier than thou, dude, we're gonna be walking off we're gonna be walking in chains over your grave. Your grave of holier than thou righteousness will all be in chains for it. So be careful. Politics is dirty stuff. It's always been Byzantium. Look at the history of Byzantium. Look at the history of the Holy Roman Emperor. Look at the Reformation, Cromwell, and so forth. I mean, it's dirty stuff. It's always been. We're a fallen world. So there you go. But that, if there is a distinction, for me, that would be it. Anita, Biden reversed President Trump's executive orders because he was jealous, envious, and hated Trump. Isn't a 3-year-old running this company? I love it, Anita. I love it. Yes, literally, in a sense. He probably has comparable diapers. Yes. Talks like a newborn. Dave, how is fascism an ideology of the right? It's a good question. It depends how you define the right. It depends how you define the right. It doesn't make a lot of sense today as a right-wing ideology. Because today's right-wing ideology is a radically anti-modernist, anti-enlightenment ideology, whereas fascism in many respects is a thoroughly modernist ideology. So modernity, the 18th century Enlightenment movement, gave us 3 political, economic, universalist systems that want to conquer the world, because that's what modernity is all about. Modernity is all about controlling the entire world. It has no technology, and telecommunications has broken down all frontiers. So modernity worked itself out in terms of liberal globalism, Soviet communism, and Nazi fascism. Those were your 3 options. So the liberal globalism and Soviet communism teamed up and knocked out Nazi fascism. And in that context, I guess you could see it. If you see Nazi fascism as right wing because of its emphasis on culture, because of its emphasis on preservation and sort of reawakening an ancient civilization of some kind that never existed. This Third Reich, though, finds itself in line with these prior 2 Romes, as it were. So I could see it in that it's civilizational, it's cultural, it tends to be conservative in this ridiculous modern sense of spreading this one culture all over the entire world, superimposing it upon all populations and peoples and the like. So that could be on the right, and then Soviet communism on the left, and then globalist liberalism somewhere in the middle of your modernist, right, secularized globalist options, one size fits all political and economic options. Then I could see it. I could see how it might be on the right. But today, those categories are dead. Those categories are gone. I mean, all you have to do is read the 800-page Oxford Handbook on the Radical Right, or the 1,000-page Rutledge Handbook on Illiberalism. That's a great book for you guys. I mean, it's if you could tolerate so many of this. These are all different scholars who are writing articles of all different facets of these movements. If you could talk, the Oxford one is better. They're not as preachy. The Rutledge Handbook on Illiberalism. So many of the scholars are writing about like the rise of Viktor Orban, and so what we call illiberal society, the rejection of liberal globalism, Trump, MAGA. They're writing about it, saying, "Oh, dang, it's winning, it's getting so successful. Darn it, it shouldn't." And then they just insert their silly little editorials in there. If you could deal with, like the introduction says this handbook is all about explaining why illiberalism is gaining ground all over the world, why illiberalism is winning. And then the first chapter is like entitled Arguments Against Liberalism. And it's many of the arguments that people like Viktor Orban or Mateusz Morawiecki in Poland, or Putin or Trump or whatever would make, or Narendra Modi would make against liberal globalism. And then this guy starts answering him. He's like, "But that's not a good argument because," and "No, but that's not true because." You're like, dude, are you telling me the arguments, why illiberalism is ascending, or are you trying to defend liberalism? So if you could deal with some of that pettiness that's in that 1,000-page book, that is a good book to get, because this is the Rutledge Handbook on Illiberalism, because it does show you that we are entering into a new era, a massive paradigm shift, biggest paradigm shift in 300 years, where the modern world itself is being rejected. And so left and right's being redefined now. Fascism is absurd. The only place we're seeing fascism is where? Right? If fascism is absurd because modernity is being rejected, and fascism is inherently modernist. And so don't be surprised if globalist societies, modernist societies, are the ones that are looking more fascistic. Don't be surprised. They're the only ones who could. So the world is turning away from that. And the new right would be the populist movements, the illiberal movements that are embracing culture, custom, tradition, particularly family values and the like, returning to religion as the centerpiece, the cult that holds the culture together. And again, Viktor Orban, Putin, Modi, Abe of Japan, the one who was just assassinated. In many ways, people argue he really did crown a post-World War II Shinto nationalism in Japan. Now everybody's basically a footnote to Abe at this point. Erdogan in Turkey, Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi Arabia, obviously the Shiite Republic of Iran. They're all just going back to nation, culture, custom, tradition. A multi-civilizational world is rising where religion now is the centerpiece of geopolitical interrelationship. Thank you, Dave. Tom, how did everybody like seeing the migrant flip off the camera after being released from beating the New York cops? Catch and release, baby. FJB. Couldn't have said it better. I saw one meme that was pretty cool. I think I retweeted it. Again, if you guys aren't subscribing to our Twitter feed, definitely do it. I mean, it's a 24/7 Twitter feed. It's awesome. It's really, really good. I retweeted a meme that said basically, this is Joe Biden's America. That guy flipping us off after beating up our blue is Joe Biden's America. An illegal alien getting off legally. I mean, how he's, I mean, just let it hit you. An illegal, I mean, well, I'm not, I mean, it is, when all's said and done, it is called anarcho-tyranny. It's anarcho-tyranny. That's what it is, right? Anarcho-tyranny. Anarcho-tyranny is when when a cop is writing up for you a ticket because you were 10 seconds over the meter limit, while the homeless guy 5 feet away from the two of you is shooting heroin and taking a crack on the side of the road. That's anarcho-tyranny. That's San Francisco in a nutshell. That's Joe Biden in a nutshell. That's Chicago in a nutshell. The criminals are now the victims, and the law abiders are now the criminals, because we are supposedly perpetuating a racist system. And their acts of criminality are cries for help in the midst of that racial system. It is insane. It is totally destroying the fabric of our civilization. Thank God the country's big. Thank God it's a big country. Thank God for a lot of red states and counties, thousands of them, that are saying a big FU, FJB to this anarcho-tyranny shit. So, yeah, God bless you, Tom. Awesome. Debbie, any updates on the cruise? Oh, you're catching. See, I have, Debbie. Yes, the update is I have the best staff on the planet. I don't know if you know, Turley Talks is about 30 people all together. It's a big operation. We have all kinds of things going. We have multiple media platforms. We have several websites. We've got all this stuff going on. And Hannah Brusvin is our producer, and she is the one who is running the cruise on putting on our Mediterranean cruise over the summer. They are wonderful because they allow me to focus solely on the headlines and read my big books like that Rutledge handbook on illiberalism and all that sort of stuff. They free me up to do all that so I can serve you. That's my prayer every morning when I pray for Turley Talks is, Lord, enable us to serve your people faithfully today. That's what I'm here to do. My job is to serve you in any way I can, capacity-wise. So they help me out by taking care of those things. So that I'm usually the last one to find out. This is a long, circuitous way to saying, Debbie, I have no clue. I just know we're going to the Mediterranean. We're going to Spain, France, and Rome over the summer. And you guys, if you want to come, you can come. We have cabins. I think we have 30 cabins reserved, set aside for Turley Talkers who want to join us. We even have like a private tour guide and everything. We'll be hanging out. I'll be doing some classes on the rise of populism, the rise of a new conservative age while we're there's just gonna be an amazing time. I can't wait. But all that's to say, I believe, I think half of the cabins are gone last I heard, and I think they're going to be doing another push or whatever we call it, another round of opening it up and letting you guys come on in. So I think there's like 15 cabins left or something. So definitely, if you want to come, Deb, definitely come on. It'll be awesome. We're gonna have a great time. Jim, your thoughts on pending border amnesty deal from the pit of hell? Forgive me for holding back and not telling you what I really think. It's from the pit of hell, and I don't think it'll pass. We're to pass. Every single Republican deserves to lose. It's that simple. And we're just going to have to rebuild our country from the red states up at this point. It's going to have to be done at a county level, state by state level, just like what we're seeing the 27 states that are joining up with Texas. I mean, every single one of them deserves to lose. Every single one. Anyone who signs up for it, and especially the leadership that allowed it to go. Kentucky, you have got to do something about McConnell. You cannot. I just don't understand, you guys, why you keep putting him back in power. I don't get it. You can have Kentucky is considered like the single most Republican state in the country. I mean, every county votes red. Every county goes MAGA. And then you put this idiot Democrat into power, who by the way, you'll notice refused to show his solidarity with Greg Abbott. Well done. So come on, guys, get your shit together. Dang. So there you go, Jim. And any good sources for study of regimes falling? Yeah, I mean, Patiram Sorokin, but he's just so deep. I mean, you know, so the American sociologist Patiram Sorokin, uh, uh, I mean, it's him and Spengler, Oswald Spengler, that really focused on why regimes fall. I mean, there's others, others, but those two in particular, particularly Spengler. Spengler is very fascinated by. I mean, Spengler's whole thesis is that civilizations don't last forever. They eventually die. They're like organisms, biological organisms. They just eventually die. And he thought we were at the death throes of Western civilization. This was back in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 20s, even when he was running. What made Sorokin fascinating is he believed the opposite. He believed and I go with Sorokin on this. Every civilization has the seeds of its own civilizational renewal, and he shows it over, and it's particularly like in the Egyptian civilization that lasted 3,000 years. It's got the seeds, and by the way, continues to even exist in many ways today through the Coptic Orthodox Church. Interestingly enough. And the revival of pharaohs that's going on right now in Egypt. It's really fascinating. Some are even calling it sort of a renewed civilizational state of Egypt, going back to the pharaohs, going way back past their Islamic, Christian, Greek, right? Like Cleopatra, when Alexander conquered them, going all the way back to their pharaonic period and rediscovering their roots there. So his basic argument is that, yes, inevitably civilizations fall. It's because they always go sensate. Sensate cultures fall. And by sensate, he means that the sacred frames of reference, the thoroughly religious frames of reference that hold the world together in what he called a logical, meaningful superstructure, they begin to recede, and secularized frames of reference take over. It's inevitable. It always happens to every society because we all have secular needs: food, air, water, shelter, material conditions, employment, whatever it is. We all have quote secular needs, what he called sensate needs. But those could take over. They can end up becoming their own values in of themselves. The sacred's pushed out. And the sensate, however, does not have the frames of reference to maintain a society long term. It doesn't have any sense of true, good, and beautiful. It doesn't have any kind of eternal sense or ultimately, it doesn't have the ability to awaken moral obligation and trust to public institutions. And so it eventually implodes. But Spengler saw that as, well, that's the death of it. You're done. The society is done. Doesn't matter, Roman, whatever. I think Sorokin was much better off. He actually provides the evidence in a way that Spengler doesn't, that with every implosion, you have a renewal. And so, I mean, you don't have to look far to see how the Roman imperial society is still very much with us. It's still very much alive. Just go to Washington, D.C., and you'll see Greek and Roman architecture everywhere. Right? It's still very much alive. Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome, those three cities, got resynthesized in London and then brought over to Philadelphia. And they're still very, very much alive. But primarily, ironically, through the church. That's what I mean. It's eternal frames of reference that keep these things alive. And so Sorkin believed that societal rot ended up more or less becoming the compost that regerminated the sacred seeds for societal renewal. And that's where I think we are today. We're seeing our society both rotting to hell and an extraordinary civilizational renaissance blooming and blossoming. So there you go. Those are two names for you. They are very, very dense writers, very verbose. I mean, I've got Spengler. Over here, Spengler, that big. I don't know if you could see the big thick book. The second one from that's Spengler, the fall or the rise and fall of civilization. That's 1,000+ pages. But you could just also look up some Google articles as well. But those are the big theorists of it. And I saw that a state out west literally has their own military to fight globalism. Any other state? I don't know that one. Send it over to me, and I would love to take a look at that. Give me the name if you wouldn't mind. Linda, have you seen who sold China hundreds of tons of gold so they could back their digital currency? The West, with the United States leading 120 tons. I could see it. Yeah, no, we're bought and paid. Our elites are bought and paid for. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Our elites are bought and paid for. So, but also notice China's very smart, right? So they're backing up things with real money. That makes sense, having linked up with Russia, which is a commodities-based culture, not a cash-based culture, right? They're food and fuel, not finance. We bought into the finance model that if we controlled cash, we controlled the world. Putin turned around and said, nope, let's see you eat cash. Let's see you heat your house with cash. No, you control food and fuel. You control the world. And that's what Russia's doing. And they've linked up with China. Yeah, we'll go to the next one, but I'm a big gold guy. I love gold and I love crypto. Those are, again, they're almost like total opposites, but gold gives you that financial stability. Crypto gives you at least the potential for massive growth in your wealth. So I think a balance between those two are great. Carlos, should other state, not that I support, by the way, digital central bank digital currencies. That's a whole different story. It's the exact opposite of the beauty of crypto. Carlos, should other states that support Texas adopt the new laws Texas established regarding illegal border crossings, ship them to those states, and then those states can help deport them? Oh, neat. Shipping them to Democrat states. Just let them stay. So to me, yeah, that's kind of the one drawback is, in the end, yeah, they're just staying here. But the idea is they're staying in blue states, and it's part of the red state sanctuary state, the red sanctuary state strategy, where we build administrative, bureaucratic, and now increasingly military walls in between us and the crooks in DC and the woke lunatics in blue states. It's a good question. Yeah, I'm with you. Ship them to red states, and then the red states can help deport them. I don't know why Texas couldn't just go ahead and deport them. Why do you have to? That's where I'm missing. I'm applying Occam's razor. We might have a superfluous premise here that we can a superfluous move that we can get rid of and just have Texas go ahead and deport them. So, but they may not be able to, is what you're saying, legally, given just our crazy immigration laws. So maybe it would have to go to red states. Like I said, I think red states need to, actually, Jonathan Turley, my namesake, actually made the argument. Red states need to form a NATO-like alliance. An attack on one is an attack on all. And they need to have summits. We need to treat the red sanctuary state as basically a nation within the country, and such a way to fortify our protection from the lunatics that are literally bringing America to its knees. It's literally bringing in a post-American world. They want nothing to do with borders. They want nothing to do with national sovereignty. They want nothing to do with our history. They hate our history. They spit on it. We're going to have to make red state politics much more responsive to NATO-like alliances among those states. So, yeah, no, sounds good, Carlos. Very good. Travis, hey, Dr. Steve, I enjoy watching your channel. What do you think will happen between the Biden administration and Texas securing the border? We'll see. I think right now Biden's crying uncle over it. I even heard that there is behind the scenes pressure on the Mexican government to stop the flood of migrants even coming anywhere close to the border. Very similar to what Trump was doing. You'll notice you didn't have these mass swarms of migrants coming, these massive caravans. There is word that the officials are doing everything they can quietly behind the scenes to get Mexican officials to quell caravans from even coming anywhere close to the border, because they know it's just killing them politically. It's destroying them politically. But I don't think they're going to go in. I think they're going to leave. They're going to probably say, if they're able to get Mexican officials to cooperate, they'll say, oh, look, illegal crossings are down exponentially. And that's because of the amazing policies of the Biden administration. I don't think anybody's going to buy it, but I think they're again, these are lunatics we're dealing with. I don't see them going in and deliberately pushing their way past Texas forces to clip the razor wire. I don't see that will be optics so ugly, politically ugly for Biden. It'll be, but then you'll see him in the 20s. I think then you'll see him in the 20s. Again, it's a lose-lose for Biden either way. But we'll see. I think he's working behind the scenes. That's what I think. Joseph, what are we going to do this next election with the Democrats trying to do the same they did the last election? Yeah, no, there's a couple of things there. One is that Arizona and Georgia and Wisconsin, the 3 states Trump needs, have all passed. Wisconsin was more of a Supreme Court, their state Supreme Court decision. Very strict mail-in ballot rules. Very, very strict mail-in ballot rules. It didn't help Kari Lake in 2022. That's the one thing that scares me about it. It did fine for Brian Kemp in 2022 in Georgia. He won overwhelmingly, but it didn't help with Kari Lake. And that's the one thing that concerns me. Now, there were more shenanigans than anything. Again, you did have somebody running for office who was at the same time as Secretary of State in charge of counting her own opponent's votes. I mean, that was pretty blatant, pretty disgusting. I think the main problem, however, of 2022 was the fact that Republicans could not get out the vote. They simply have yet to resign themselves to the fact that the Trump coalition is a new coalition that nobody in the Republican establishment understands, because they occupy such a different cultural space than working class, white, non-white, working class, rural voters, even urban voters. Remember, urban voters are very attracted to MAGA, extremely attracted. Trump is getting twice the black support that any Republican even dreamed of getting prior to particularly this year. But he always was getting relatively high minority vote. Now he's getting the union vote. The union vote is coming out in mass to vote for Trump. Union bosses are openly admitting that. Trump just met with union bosses over this past week in Washington, D.C. To try to get the leadership in line with the membership. They've always been a little bit unaligned, and what Trump's victory, particularly in New Hampshire, proved, because remember, New Hampshire was a lot of shenanigans. All right. Hillary Haley cheated last Tuesday or a week ago last week. Hillary Haley cheated. She cheated in that for the Republican nomination, she brought in 70% of her vote was Democrat. Forget the independent crap. These were center-left Democrats, okay, that had no intention of voting for her in the general election. 70%, she cheated. She brought in all of these, shall we say, mail-in votes that should not have been there. And Trump still cleaned her clock. So what was the lesson? The lesson was turnout trumps fraud. Turnout trumps fraud. That's the lesson, right? Again, Rich Barris has got the numbers. He crunches the numbers on that. And what Kerry Lake failed to do, and what Blake Masters failed to do, and what a number of MAGA candidates failed to do, is they failed to turn out the vote that Trump and only Trump can turn out. Trump is a turnout machine. Voters, I mean, they'll literally camp out overnight just to vote for Trump. And these are people who probably haven't voted in the last 5 elections. So people who've never, we saw it with Brexit, the same phenomenon in Brexit. People who've never voted before or rarely voted before suddenly come out en masse to vote for Trump. He's a phenom. I mean, it's just, he's a phenom, I should say. He's absolutely stunning. And we just didn't have that in 2018. We didn't have it in 2022. Now, 2020 is obvious. That speaks for itself. And even then, with the most shenanigans ever imagined, ever pulled off in a presidential contest, Biden still was only able to win by a few thousand votes, by 40,000. That's with Trump down in all the polls, everything. Now Trump's 10 points high. He's literally double what he was in terms of the swing vote than he was in 2020 or 2016. I mean, it's just, so I don't know what shenanigans they could possibly pull that will sway this election. So if we get the turnout, we should be good. We should be fine. That would be my argument. Thanks, Joseph. Is QAnon real, do you think? No, I'm not a QAnon guy. I just, plain and simple, I've never studied it enough. I've never researched it enough to make any definitive, educated opinion. But to me, it just doesn't factor into my analysis of reality. It just doesn't. It's not a diss on you guys. Anybody who's into QAnon, that's fine. I'm just not a diss. It's just, I mean, it's not a diss. I'm just, I go to 1,000-page handbooks on the rise of the so-called far right of Europe. You know, I go to those and I look at the studies. I don't go to QAnon. Dave, I think I heard that was related to a CIA code name for a project that had to do with a virtual influencer farm or something. I don't know. I'm totally ignorant. James, what Greg Abbott shutting down the border, should he be considered for VP? Oh, with Greg Abbott, should he be considered for VP? Possibly. He's a little establishmenty. Texas Republicans in general are a little. Remember, it's the Texas patriot that keeps the country conservative. But Bush destroyed the Republican Party in many ways in Texas. Bush Sr. He married Big Oil, Texas Big Oil, with the defense contractors in D.C. and Virginia. So he turned the Republican Party totally as puppets of the establishment. So that's why you get the Karl Roves and the George W. Bushes and all. They're just, or the guys who tried to get rid of Ken Paxton. I mean, they're just disgusting. They're odious. Or Eye Patch McCain. He's the worst. I mean, Eye Patch McCain is basically Dan Crenshaw, when all said and done, is Joe Manchin. Dan Crenshaw is a Democrat. He's a slightly more conservative Democrat, but the guy's a freaking Democrat. Now, he caucuses and votes with Republicans, but whenever he just goes off and starts talking, the guy just sounds like a flippin' neo-lib. I mean, it's ridiculous. And yet, again, Texans, conservative patriot, send him back to D.C. every year. What the hell are you doing? Stop. No wonder why they just keep, doing the bidding of their donors, as it were. So we'll see. That'd be because the key is that Trump's VP has to be even more radical than he is, lest they try to take him out and then pull a Macbeth and put his VP in as they being the powers that be, and put his VP in as president. If his VP were Ron DeSantis right now, I don't think Trump would make it past the inauguration parade intact. I mean, they would take him out, man, and put DeSantis right in there, and then they know every donor check they get their wish, right? Every donor check, a DeSantis policy gets its wings. Anita, what do you think of left a filing brief to Supreme Court for all 50 states to ban Trump from being on the? But yeah, I don't. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Most are even arguing that the Supreme Court will decide on the Colorado Supreme Court's case, and particularly probably in a 9-0 ruling. You're seeing state after state: Washington, Massachusetts, Illinois. I mean, the bluest of blue states. Their judges, their Supreme Courts are going, no, courts do not have jurisdiction as to whether or not, as to who can be on a presidential ballot. Courts do not have that authority, period. Jules, Steve, how do I give you the Senator from Mississippi contact information so that you can have him on? Just go ahead and you can send it to probably send it to Steve at turleytalks.com. or send it to support@turleytalks.com. That should get him into our ecosphere. Travis, if Biden wins re-election, do you think China will invade Taiwan and start World War III? I don't know. It is very clear that China is ready to. China has already said reunification of Taiwan is inevitable. Taiwan being subsumed under China like Hong Kong is baked into the cake of Chinese geopolitics. How they do it is the question. It's not a matter of if or when, it's how. And China, to me, at least from what I see, is a nation historically that really dislikes military action, and it prefers to play the long game, and it prefers to use carrots to get other nations to play along, just like they've done with us. And so I don't think they're going to invade. Now, they do send messages to remind Taiwan, if we wanted to, we could, and we would overwhelm you. All right. When we say that China's 1.4 billion people, you realize that 0.4 is bigger than the population of the United States. Let that hit you. You could fit the entire population of the United States inside that 0.4 and still have another 50,000 left over. Okay. It is a nation that is beyond enormous. Again, that's why Zhang Weiwei, the scholar, argues China's not a nation; it's a civilization. It's a civilization state, and our freaking Navy is not going to take on a civilization state like that. I'm sorry, our freaking Navy floating on the water isn't going to take on China in all of its mass land power. It's just not going to do it. So China just likes to remind us of that. But I don't think China wants to go that direction. I think it will play the long game and use the already pro-union sentiments that are very strong in Taiwan. They're minority, but they're very strong to their advantage. And over time, we'll see Taiwan. Over time, they trust Taiwan will see things their way. And we'll see how they do it. But I don't think it's going to be a military operation at this point. But we'll see. We'll keep our eyes on it. And news on Alaska. Will Biden sell back to Russia or fight for it? Another Ukraine in a minor sense? No, I don't think so. I don't see any evidence of Biden giving Alaska back to Russia. Melissa, why are you staying on YouTube when they're demonetizing? You're not counting some of your subscribers. You're driving people to their site when you could be supporting one of the other sites like Truth or Rumble. Oh yeah, so we're on. So we've thought about this, Melissa. So we're on both Truth and Rumble. We're on both of them. So we support them 100%. We're live streaming on Rumble right now. We have gotten so many people into our ecosphere, our media ecosphere through YouTube. And YouTube has such a massive international presence. India, Turkey, the Arabic worlds, Israel, Russia, Europe, Africa, Brazil, Latin America. I mean, it's so international, and the audience is so big, and we draw a very, very international crowd. And whereas Rumble and Truth don't. That's what our demographics show. Rumble and Truth are very American centric. And our channel is for a new conservative age rising all over the world. And so the demographics on YouTube show that it's the best way that we can contact the world. It's the best way we can contact and keep and share our message with populations outside of the United States. And so that's why we continue to be on YouTube, because we think it's a international message that is worth sharing internationally, and to give hope to populations, and for them to give us hope, because they're in many ways way ahead of us. Narendra Modi of India is poised to win his third landslide election in a row. I mean, the guy is just politically crushing it. They're bringing us hope, where 20% of the world's population, that's India, are thoroughly conservative, nationalist, populist, traditionalist. Religion is central to everything they're doing. And that's the trend. That's the dynamic where the world is going. And we're going to be the ones kind of kicking and screaming. Our elite, our blue states, are going to be kicking and screaming, not wanting to go in that world, weeping and gnashing in teeth. And we just believe that that's a message that should go to the world. And YouTube is the best platform for that, bar none. It's 2 billion users. So thank you for that question, Melissa. And is Orban a globalist? Not even remotely. No, Orban is, without question, an enemy of globalism. Charles, are there webcams on both borders, Canada and Mexico? Good question. I don't know. Don't know the answer to that. I know there are cams. I don't know if they're webcams. Jules, what about confidential records case? Are you talking about you're talking about the Palm Beach Mar-a-Lago raid, if I recall? Yeah. So that is being held up by the judge. The judge, the difficulty, it's not confidential, it's classified. The judge is concerned, as is the Biden administration is concerned, that they don't know how to handle classified information in a court context where the record is public. So they're still trying to work all of that out. I don't see that case as having any merit whatsoever, especially in light of Joe Biden's garage. And it looks like this judge who's in charge of it seems very skeptical of it as well. But it was the way the doc works is it's the J6 case first, and then that case is coming up. Then apparently Fulton County, I think, is next, and then the Manhattan DA. They're all being held up by this one. They can't all be done at the same time, because Trump has a right to be present in any trial. So anyway, all of that's to say, at this point, if the DC case has been indefinitely suspended, all the other cases seem to be hanging in limbo as well. That's just kind of where we are right now. And then Fannie Mae is just cooking her own goose. She's just destroying herself. So. Travis, if Trump wins in November, what do you think his first move should be as president? Well, seal the border. That number one, border. That's got to be huge. You got to cut off the bleeding. And Schedule F. He's got to implement Order 66, right? That ordered the assassination of the Jedi. He's got to assassinate the deep state. That's just no other way of putting it. Bureaucratically, of course. I'm not talking about violence. Bureaucratically, and that's what Schedule F will do. And that's what we've done a number of videos on that. And how many? Oh boy, we seem to hit one every 80 to 100 years. That's kind of been our pattern to a certain extent. So we had our birth of liberty in 1790s, as a formal country, and then 1860, that was tested. We split. I mean, not even 100 years later, we split. And then a war was fought to try to bring it back together. You had the 1960s that was extremely ambiguous, because on one hand you had a civil rights movement that seemed largely good. I mean, there were a lot of people who felt that they were on the wrong side of the disadvantaged side of society, that the laws were of equal protection were not being realized in their lives, and they successfully were able to push back against that. At the same time, you start to see an erosion of our society with the Kennedy, the Ted Kennedy Immigration Act that was passed in '66, that opened up third world nations into our country like never before, and started changing the demographics dramatically. And then of course, the rise of radical skeptical liberalism in the academy, the death of Western civilization courses. So it was, 60s are very ambiguous in that sense. And you do have this Reagan reprieve, but it seems like the 60s were pretty tumultuous and the country was reinvented. And now I think that's like in 1860, I think it's unraveling again. That reinvention is unraveling. And that's why so many people are talking about the possibility of civil war. So those would be, I think, some fixed markers in terms of reboots for the United States, as you put it. Resets, I should say. Thanks. One more. Sorry, is China... so China isn't... Do you say falling or failing? Yeah, falling. Well, if you listen to Peter Zion, if you've been listening to Peter Zion for the last 14 years, probably more than that, 15 years, China should have fallen 20 times by now. No, I don't see China falling. China has its own issues, but so does every country. China is experiencing a demographic winter, but so is every country. China isn't experiencing anything that any other country isn't experiencing. I mean, it will have its own, yes, I should say, it will have its own particular problems, perhaps of its own making. But no, I do not see China falling. China is an extremely resilient country. Charles, question, Dr. Steve, can you curl your tongue? Not sideways. No, I cannot. I hope that means I'm not a witch. I proved it. Charles. The weekend's already starting for Charles. Charles is already hitting the mimosas. James, with Greg Abbott taking action at the border, consider him VP. We talked about that. And questions: the Texas border a trap? Why are there still secret openings not far from? We're talking about that as well. No, I mean, it better not be a trap. It better not be. I mean, I think it's a trap. I think it's a setup in many ways for the Biden administration, just because it's a lose-lose. He's leaking. He's literally bleeding poll support with a 70% supermajority saying close the freaking border. So let's close it, right? Richard, what do you think about the 10 Oregon GOP state representatives being told they can't run for the next term? I saw that because they walked out of some legislation. Unless there's something in the Oregon Constitution, I think that would be overturned easily. Again, courts can't bar people from running. It's just that simple. They don't have that power. Are we frozen, Josh? Oh, that's it. Okay. I was worried. I was worried Josh fell asleep. I was boring him too much. All right, gang. That's it. Great live stream today. Have a wonderful weekend. God bless each and every one of you. I'll see you on Monday. God bless.